The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched out like a massive dome under the artificial stars. 47 different alien species sat in their special seats, each one designed for their unique bodies. Some breathed different air, others needed special light, and a few even floated in tanks of liquid. The air hummed with translation devices working hard to turn thousands of different languages into something everyone could understand. Jake Morrison stood alone in the center of it all. He was a tall man, with gray hair and steady blue eyes. His simple black suit looked plain next to all the colorful aliens around him. But he stood straight and calm, like he was waiting for a bus, instead of facing the most powerful court in the galaxy. The Zelrani delegate spoke first. She looked like a giant octopus with purple skin and silver spots. Her 8 arms moved as she talked, and her voice came out angry and sharp through the speakers. The humans have broken too many rules. She said they take planets without asking. They change the air and water to suit themselves. They do not care about the life that was there before. Jake did not move. He just listened. A Korath representative stood up next. The Korath looked like living rocks with glowing crystals for eyes. This one was old, with deep cracks running through his stone skin. Humans think only of themselves, the rock creature said in a voice like grinding stones. They make deals that help only them. They refuse to follow our laws. They are too dangerous to live among civilized beings. More aliens spoke up. The bird-like Ixtani complained about human ships being too loud. The slug-like Vorthok said humans smelled bad and made them sick. The floating gas beings, called ethereals, claimed humans had thoughts that were too sharp and hurt their minds. Jake listened to them all. He did not argue. He did not try to defend his people. He just stood there with his hands behind his back and waited. Hours passed. 46 different species listed their complaints about humanity. They talked about human colonies that grew too fast. They complained about human traders who made too much money. They were angry about human scientists who asked too many questions. They feared human soldiers who won too many battles. Finally, Council Prime Veltar called for silence. Veltar was huge, even sitting down. He looked like a giant praying mantis, made of black metal, with 4 arms and eyes that glowed green. When he spoke, his voice was like thunder. The charges have been made, Veltar said. Humanity stands accused of being too aggressive, too independent, and too dangerous for galactic society. The evidence has been presented. Now we vote. Voting system lit up. It was a beautiful thing to watch, like a rainbow made of light floating in the air above the delegates. Each species had their own color, and when they voted, their light would move to either the red side for exile or the blue side for allowing humans to stay. The first vote came from the Zelrani. Purple light shot to the red side. The Korath voted. Next, gray light joined the purple on the red side. One by one, the votes came in. Red light after red light filled up the exile side of the display. The Ixtani voted red. The Vorthok voted red. The gas beings voted red. Even species that had never had problems with humans voted to send them away. Jake watched the lights pile. Up on the red side, his face did not change. He did not look surprised or upset, just watched like he was counting sheep. 30 votes for exile, 35 votes for exile, 40 votes for exile. Only one species abstained. The Threnody were small, peaceful creatures who looked like walking flowers. Their delegate, a being with petals for hair and kind eyes, refused to vote at all. "We will not be part of this," the Threnody said in a voice like wind chimes. "It is not justice. This is fear." But their abstention did not matter. The final count appeared in burning letters above the council chamber. 46 votes for immediate exile, 0 votes against. 1 abstention. Veltar stood up, his metal body gleaming under the dome lights. "The council has spoken. Humanity is hereby exiled from all civilized space. You have 30 standard days to remove all human presence from council territory. Any humans found in our space after that time will be arrested and imprisoned." Jake Morrison nodded once. Just once. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small communication device. He pressed a button, and spoke 4 simple words into it. Pack it up, people. The message went out instantly to every human in space. It reached the mining colonies on the edge of Korath territory. It found the research stations studying alien plants and animals. Got to the trade ships carrying goods between different worlds. It even reached the small diplomatic offices on alien homeworlds. Everywhere humans lived and worked in space, they got the same forward message. Everywhere they got it, they understood exactly what it meant. The council delegates expected Jake to argue. They thought he would beg for more time or ask for a second chance. Some of them probably hoped he would get angry and make threats, which would prove they were right to fear humans instead. Jake put his communicator away and looked up at Veltar. 30 days, you said? 30 standard days, Veltar confirmed. Will be gone in 10, Jake said. A murmur went through the council chamber. Several delegates looked at each other with confusion. The Zelrani delegate's arms wiggled with surprise. 10 days? Veltar asked. That seems impossible. You have 12. Million people scattered across 300 worlds. Jake smiled for the first time since the trial began. It was not a happy smile or a sad smile. It was the kind of smile someone gives when they know something others do not. You'd be surprised what humans can do when we set our minds to it, he said. He turned and walked toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the huge chamber as 47 different species watched him go. Just before he reached the door, the Threnody delegate called out to him. Ambassador Morrison, the flower-like being, said, "For what it is worth, some of us will miss you." Jake stopped and turned back, looked at the small, kind creature who had refused to vote against his people. "Thank you," he said. "That means more than you know." Then he was gone, leaving the council chamber in an uncomfortable silence. The delegates began talking among themselves, but their conversations were different now. Some seemed happy that the dangerous humans were finally leaving. Others looked worried, like they had just made a terrible mistake, but could not figure out what it was. Veltar called for order and officially closed the session, as the delegates filed out of the chamber. Many of them were already making plans. The Korath wanted to claim the human mining operations. The Zelrani hoped to take over the agricultural worlds humans had developed. Other species planned to grab human trade routes. In research stations, none of them thought about what would happen to the galaxy without humans in it. They only thought about what they could take once the humans were gone. But in the empty chamber, its lights dimming and its translation systems powering down, Jake Morrison's words seemed to hang in the air like a promise. You'd be surprised what humans can do when we set our minds to it. Time would prove just how right he was. 3 days after Jake Morrison walked out of the council chamber, something incredible began happening across the galaxy. On mining worlds at the edge of space, human workers started packing up equipment that had taken years to install. On research stations studying alien life, scientists carefully stored away decades of work. On peaceful farm worlds, families loaded their belongings into transport ships. The evacuation was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Captain, Lisa Bennett stood on the bridge of the Hampton Roads, watching dozens of ships move through space like a perfectly organized dance. Her ship was huge, built for war, but now serving as the command center for the largest moving operation in history. Through the windows, she could see cargo vessels, passenger ships, and mining haulers, all moving in perfect formation. Report, Lisa said to her crew. Commander Pete Rogers looked up from his console. He was a young man with quick hands and sharp eyes who had spent the last 3 days without sleep. Kepler system evacuation is 60% complete, Pete said. The mining operation on Kepler 44-B will be fully dismantled by tomorrow. Proxima Research Station is packing up their labs now. The agricultural colonies in the Vega system are loading the last of their equipment. Lisa nodded. She had been worried that 10 days would not be enough time. 12 million humans lived and worked across 300 different worlds. Moving them all seemed impossible, but humans had always been good at doing impossible things.
Any
Problems? She asked. The Korath sent a patrol ship to Kepler 4 for to be, Pete said. They wanted to claim the mining equipment we left behind, and Pete smiled. There was no equipment left behind. The miners took everything down to the last bolt. They even removed the landing pads. Lisa was not surprised. Human miners were thorough people. They knew the value of good equipment, and they were not about to leave it for aliens who had just voted to exile them. On her main screen, Lisa could see reports coming in from across human space. Every colony, every station, every outpost was following the same pattern. They were not just leaving, they were taking everything with them. Dr. Helen Carter was one of the people making sure nothing got left behind. She worked at the Proxima research station, a place where humans studied alien plants and animals. The station had been her home for 8 years. She knew every lab, every computer, every sample container. Now she was packing it all up. "Be careful with those data cores," Helen told her assistant, a young woman named Lucy Brown. "Those contain 20 years of research on Zelrani biology." Lucy handled the cores like they were made of glass. "Are we really taking everything, Dr. Carter?" "Even the basic stuff." "Everything," Helen said firmly. "Not one byte of data stays behind. Not one sample, one research note." This was happening everywhere. Human scientists were not just leaving their stations, they were taking all their knowledge with them. Research that could have helped the galaxy understand diseases, improve agriculture, or explore new worlds was disappearing into encrypted storage drives. The aliens had voted to exile humanity, but they had not thought about what humanity would take with them when they left. Captain Roy Davis commanded a cargo ship called the Freedom. His job was simple: go to human colonies and help them pack up. But as he moved from world to world, he started to understand just how much humans had built in space. On one agricultural world, human farmers had spent 15 years developing new crops that could grow in alien soil. They had created bacteria that could turn poisonous dirt into rich farmland. They had built irrigation systems that could bring water to desert planets. When Roy arrived to help with the evacuation, he found the farmers carefully removing every piece of equipment. They dug up the special bacteria from the soil. They took apart the irrigation systems piece by piece. They even removed the genetically modified seeds from storage facilities. "Are you taking the seeds?" Roy asked the lead farmer, a woman named Mary Johnson. "Because we developed them," Mary said simply. "They're ours. But the aliens on this world will starve without these crops." Mary looked at him with tired eyes. "They voted to exile us, Captain. They made it clear they don't want our help." Duh. Watched the farmers work. They were not angry or bitter. They were just doing their job with the same care they had always shown. But when they were done, the planet would go back to being a desert. The aliens who lived there would have to find food somewhere else. The same thing was happening on hundreds of worlds. Human traders were completing their current deals, but making no new ones. Human doctors were treating their patients, but packing up their medical equipment. Human teachers were finishing their lessons, but taking their knowledge with them. Most remarkably, humans were honoring every contract and agreement they had made. No one broke a deal or left a job half-finished. Paid every debt and fulfilled every obligation right up until the moment they left. But they also made sure that nothing useful stayed behind. Commander Sue Williams ran a diplomatic station on the Korath homeworld. Her job had been to help humans and Korath work together on trade deals and scientific projects. She had lived on the rocky world for 6 years, learning to breathe the thin air and walk in the heavy gravity. Now she was leaving, and she was taking everything with her. "What about the translation programs?" asked her aide, a young man named Danny Clark. "The Korath will need them to talk to other species." "The programs were developed by human linguists using human computers," Sue said. "They're coming with us. And the trade agreements will expire when we leave. The Korath can make new deals with someone else." Danny looked uncomfortable. "Commander, some of these agreements have been in place for decades. Whole industries depend on them." Sue stopped packing and looked at him. "Danny, the Korath voted to exile us. Every single one of their representatives voted to send us away. They made it clear they don't want us here." "I know, but no buts," Sue said. "We're leaving exactly the way they wanted us to. Completely." Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening. Humans were not being cruel or vindictive. They were simply taking the Galactic Council at their word. If the aliens wanted humans gone, then humans would be gone completely. The efficiency of the withdrawal amazed even the humans themselves. Supply ships moved like clockwork between worlds. Communication networks coordinated thousands of different operations at once. Transport vessels loaded people and equipment with military precision. But what impressed the watching aliens most was how quiet it all was. There were no protests, no angry speeches, no threats of revenge. Humans simply packed up their lives and left, as professionally as they had once arrived. Colonel Mike Thompson commanded the defense forces on a world near Shikari space. His job had been to protect peaceful traders from Shikari raiders. The evacuation order came. He began moving his ships and weapons immediately. The local aliens were worried. Without human protection, Shikari raiders would attack their trading ships again. "Please," begged the local governor, a creature that looked like a giant spider, "leave some of your weapons. We can pay for them." Mike looked at the alien with calm eyes. "I'm sorry, but these weapons were built by human engineers using human technology. They're not for sale. But the Shikari will attack us." "Then you should ask the Galactic Council for protection," Mike said. "They're the ones who voted to handle galactic security without human help." Mike's ships left that same day. Within hours, Shikari raiders attacked a convoy in the outer system. Without human warships to drive them off, the raiders took everything and captured the crews. By the end of the first week, the aliens were starting to notice problems. Trade routes that had run smoothly for decades suddenly had delays. Diplomatic disputes that humans used to mediate quickly turned into arguments. Research projects that depended on human knowledge came to a complete stop. The council had expected to divide up human assets after the evacuation. Instead, they found empty buildings and stripped facilities. The humans had taken everything that mattered and left behind only empty shells. On the 8th day, Captain Lisa Bennett received the final reports. Every human colony had been evacuated. Every research station had been emptied. Every diplomatic post had been closed. 12 million people and everything they owned were now moving toward the edge of known space. "Where are we going?" Pete Rogers asked her. Lisa looked at the star charts showing their destination. It was a region of space that no alien had ever explored, where new worlds waited to be discovered. "Home," she said simply. "We're going home." But as the great convoy of human ships disappeared into unexplored space, they left behind a galaxy that was about to learn what it had really lost when it voted to exile Earth's children. 6 months had passed since the last human ship disappeared into dark space. The galaxy should have been celebrating. The dangerous humans were gone, and the civilized species could finally live in peace. But peace was not what they found. Admiral Frank Hayes sat in his command chair aboard the Enterprise, reading reports that painted a troubling picture. The ship floated in a star system that did not appear on any galactic map, hidden among asteroids and cosmic dust. Around him, dozens of other human ships moved silently through space, all of them invisible to alien sensors. "What's the latest?" "From galactic space?" Frank asked his intelligence officer. Lieutenant Carol Smith looked up from her console. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who had spent her career studying alien politics. Now she studied the collapse of those same politics. "The Korath and Zelrani are fighting again," Carol said. "Border dispute over the Epsilon system. Without human mediators, they can't agree on anything." Frank was not surprised. Humans had been keeping peace between those two species for almost 50 years. The Korath were proud and stubborn. The Zelrani were emotional and quick to take offense. Left alone, they always ended up fighting. "Casualties?" Frank asked. "Both sides have lost ships. No major battles yet, but it's getting worse." Frank nodded and moved to the next report. "What about trade?" "Down 30% across all sectors," Carol said. "The shipping companies can't handle the volume without human logistics networks, and nobody trusts each other without human neutral ground." For negotiations? This was the part Frank had expected. Humans had not just been traders in galactic space. They had been the glue that held trade together. When two species hated each other, they would both trust humans to handle their business fairly. When complex deals needed to be made, humans were the ones who could understand what everyone wanted and find a way to make it work. Now that glue is gone, any attempts to contact us? Frank asked. Carol's expression became grim. Hundreds. The council sends messages every day through every communication channel they know. Emergency frequencies, diplomatic channels, even personal communications. Between former colleagues, all ignored as ordered. Frank had given that order himself. Complete communication blackout. No human would respond to any alien message, no matter how desperate or friendly it sounded. The aliens had voted to exile humanity, and humanity would respect that decision completely. On the other side of the galaxy, things were getting much worse. The Vorthon plague had started on a small mining world near Shikari space. It was a disease that attacked the nervous system, causing paralysis and death within days. Under normal circumstances, it would have been contained quickly. Human medical teams had dealt with similar outbreaks dozens of times before, but there were no human medical teams anymore. Dr. Patricia Green watched the reports from her laboratory on New Haven, the hidden world that had become humanity's temporary capital. She had spent 20 years developing rapid response protocols for biological disasters. Her techniques could have stopped the Vorthon plague in its first week. Instead, she watched it spread from system to system like wildfire. How many worlds are affected now? She asked her assistant, Dr. Kevin White. 17 systems, 43 worlds, Kevin said quietly. Estimated death toll is approaching 2 billion. Patricia closed her eyes. 2 billion lives lost because the aliens had been too proud to accept human help. She could have saved them, all with a single medical ship and the right equipment. Any requests for assistance? She asked, though she already knew the answer. Daily, the Galactic Medical Council is begging for our plague response protocols. They're offering full pardons, restored citizenship, even council membership if we'll just share our research and our response. It's the same as always. Silence. Patricia understood the reasoning. The aliens had made their choice. They had decided humans were too dangerous to be part of galactic civilization. If humans responded to this crisis, it would prove that the aliens could exile them and still expect their help whenever problems arose. But knowing the reasoning did not make watching the death tolls any easier. The plague was not the only crisis spreading through galactic space. Without human peacekeepers, old conflicts were flaring up everywhere. The bird-like Ixtani had declared war on their neighbors over a trade dispute. The slug-like Vorthok were raiding shipping lanes that human patrols used to protect. Most dangerous of all, the Shikari Empire was expanding again. General Tom Parker commanded the hidden monitoring station that watched Shikari space. He was a big man with gray hair and scars from old battles. He had fought the Shikari for 15 years before the peace treaties ended there. Now those treaties were meaningless without human enforcement. They've taken the Rigel system, his aide, Captain Nancy Davis reported. Conquered all. For inhabited worlds in less than a week. Tom looked at the tactical display showing Shikari fleet movements. Red arrows showed their ships moving deeper into what used to be protected space. Each arrow represented millions of lives under Shikari rule. Resistance? Tom asked. The local defense fleets were no match for Shikari warships, Nancy said. They're requesting immediate assistance from the Galactic Council, and the Council's response? They're forming a committee to study the situation. Tom snorted. The Galactic Council was good at forming committees. They were not good at actually fighting wars. That had always been humanity's job. How many systems have the Shikari taken now? Tom asked. 6, with 3 more under attack. Intelligence suggests they're planning to take everything out to the Perseus arm. Tom studied the map. The Shikari were moving fast and hitting hard, just like they had before humans stopped them. Back then, it had taken a major human fleet and 2 years of fighting to push them back. Now, there was no one to stop them at all. The reports kept coming. In from across the galaxy. Food shortages on worlds that had depended on human agricultural technology. communication breakdowns between species that had relied on human translation services, economic collapse on worlds whose entire industries had been built around human trade networks. But perhaps the most telling sign of how much the galaxy missed humans was how desperately they were trying to find them. Commander Julia Adams ran the Deep Space Monitoring Station that tracked alien scout ships. Her job was to watch for anyone getting too close to human space. What she saw worried her. "They're getting more aggressive," she told her supervisor, Colonel Bill Johnson. "Korath exploration ships are pushing deeper into uncharted space. Zelrani, long-range scouts are checking every system they can reach. Even the peaceful Threnody are sending out survey vessels." Bill looked at the tracking data. Dozens of alien ships were scattered across the outer rim, all looking for any sign of where humanity had gone. "Any of them getting close?" he asked. "Not yet, but they're covering a lot of ground. Eventually, one of them might stumble across our outer settlements." This was the risk of the Great Silence. Humanity had vanished so completely that the aliens were starting to panic. They were searching everywhere, trying to find some trace of their former partners, enemies, and mediators. The irony was not lost on the human leadership. For decades, aliens had complained that humans were too visible, too active, too involved in everything. They were desperate to find humans again. President Kate Williams read the daily intelligence reports from her office on New Haven. She was a calm woman who had been chosen to lead humanity during its exile precisely because she could make hard decisions without emotion. The reports made for grim reading. Galactic civilization was falling apart without human involvement. Wars were breaking out. Diseases were spreading unchecked. Trade was collapsing. Entire species were suffering and dying. And still, the calls for help kept coming. Secretary said, entering the office. "The Galactic Council has sent another message. This one is from Council Prime Veltar personally." Kate took the message pad but did not read it immediately. She had read dozens of similar messages. Apologies. Explanations. Desperate pleas for humanity to return and help fix the problems. Finally, she looked at the screen. Veltar's message was different from the others. Shorter, more honest. "We were wrong," it said simply. "The galaxy is dying without you. Please come back." Kate set the message aside with all the others. Her answer was the same as it had always. Ben. Silence. Outside her window, she could see human ships moving between the hidden worlds of their new territory. Construction vessels building new colonies, research ships exploring unknown systems, cargo haulers carrying goods between settlements that the aliens would never find. Humanity was not just surviving in exile. They were growing stronger, but the galaxy they had left behind was learning a hard lesson about the value of what they had thrown away. 2 years had passed since humanity vanished from galactic space, and the galaxy was dying. President Kate Williams stood in the observation deck of New Haven Station, looking out at the hidden human fleet that had grown beyond anything the Galactic Council could imagine. Ships by the thousands moved through space around her, each one representing humanity's new strength. Mining vessels brought resources from asteroid fields no alien had ever seen. Construction ships built massive factories in the depths of space. Warships patrolled the borders of human territory with weapons that made their old fleet look like toys. The intelligence report in her hand told a different story about the galaxy they had left behind. "The Vorthon plague has reached 37 systems now," she read aloud to her cabinet. "Death toll is estimated at 15 billion and rising. The Galactic Medical Council has offered us full restoration to the Council, permanent seats on all committees and access to their most advanced technology if we will just share our plague research." Secretary of Defense Bob Taylor looked up from his own reports. He was a stocky man with engineer hands who had spent the last 2 years building humanity's new military. "And our response? It's the same as always," Kate said. "Nothing." Was quiet for a moment. Every person there understood the weight of that decision. They could save billions of lives with a single transmission. But they also understood why they would not. "What about the Shikari situation?" asked Foreign Secretary Linda Cooper. Kate turned to the next page. "They've conquered 18 systems now. The Galactic Defense Force sent a fleet to stop them last month, and the entire fleet was destroyed. 300 ships, 2 million crew members. The Shikari didn't even slow down. This news was not surprising. The Galactic Defense Force had always been more for show than actual fighting. It was humans who had done the real military work. Humans who had kept aggressive species like the Shikari in check. Without human fleets to back them up, the other species had learned how weak they really were. Engineer Bob Taylor had been working day and night for 2 years, and the results showed in humanity's new technology. In massive factories hidden in dark space, automated systems built weapons and ships that were decades ahead of anything the galaxy had seen. Fusion reactors provided unlimited power. Quantum computers solved problems instantly. Gravitational manipulators moved objects the size of moons. Most importantly, they had built defenses. "The perimeter sensor network is complete," Bob reported to the president. "Any alien ship that comes within 50 light-years of our territory will be detected instantly. Our response fleets can intercept them before they see anything important." "What about the automated defense platforms?" Kate asked. "Online and operational? Each platform can destroy a battleship with a single shot. We have them positioned around every human world and along all major approach routes." This was the new reality of human space. While the galaxy fell apart, humanity had used their exile to become something much more dangerous than they had ever been before. The Council had feared human independence and aggression. Now humans were truly independent and far more capable of aggression than anyone had imagined. But it was not just military power that humanity had developed. Their knowledge had grown as well. Dr. Helen Carter ran the new research institute on Haven Prime, humanity's main colony world. Her facilities made the old Proxima research station look like a child's laboratory. Here, human scientists studied samples and data from 6 newly discovered alien species that lived beyond Council space. "The Andorians are remarkably advanced," Helen told her research team. "Their biotechnology is centuries ahead of anything in Council space. They can grow living ships that repair themselves and weapons that adapt to any target." Her assistant, Dr. Lucy Brown, looked excited. "Are they willing to share their knowledge?" "More than willing. They're eager to form an alliance with us. It seems they have their own problems with aggressive neighbors, and they've heard about human military reputation." This was happening throughout human space. The species that lived beyond the galaxy's edge were nothing like the Council races. They were older, more advanced, and more willing to treat humans as equals. Some had technologies that seemed like magic. Others had knowledge that answered questions human scientists had been asking for centuries. Most importantly, they respected human capabilities instead of fearing them. But while humanity grew stronger, the galaxy continued its slide toward chaos. The Korath and Zelrani. War had expanded into a full-scale conflict that consumed entire sectors. Without human mediators to find compromise, both sides fought with increasing desperation. Civilian populations fled their homes as warships burned planets from orbit. The refugee crisis had become impossible to manage. Billions of displaced beings wandered from system to system, looking for somewhere safe to live. The Council had no resources to help them and no authority to force member species to take them in. Trade had collapsed almost completely. Without human neutral ground for negotiations, species that had worked together for decades could no longer make deals. Supply chains that had fed thousands of worlds simply stopped working. Famines spread across civilized space. Most terrifying of all, the Shikari Empire showed no signs of slowing down. General Tom Parker watched their expansion from his monitoring station deep in human space. The red markers on his tactical display showed Shikari fleets moving through system after system like a plague. H marker represented millions of beings now under brutal Shikari rule. "They've reached the core worlds," his aide captain Nancy Davis reported. "The Zelrani home system is under attack." Tom studied the display. The Zelrani were one of the species that had voted most strongly for human exile. Their representative had been among the loudest voices calling humans dangerous and aggressive. Now their world was being invaded by truly dangerous and aggressive beings, and there was no one to help them. Resistance? Tom asked. Minimal. The Zelrani fleet was already weakened by their war with the Korath. The Shikari destroyed what was left in 6 hours. Casualties? Unknown. The Shikari don't usually leave survivors. Tom had fought the Shikari. Before he knew what their conquest meant, the Zelrani were not just being defeated, they were being wiped out. Their culture, their history, their entire species might be gone within months, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. Calls for help had become constant now. Every day brought new messages from the Galactic Council, from individual species, even from private citizens who somehow got access to old human communication channels. All of them said the same thing. Please come back. Amy Sullivan ran the communication center that received these messages. She was a quiet woman who had once worked as a diplomatic translator. Now she listened to the galaxy's pain and filed it away without response. We received over 3,000 messages today, she reported to President Williams. Pleas for medical assistance, requests for military intervention, offers of tribute if we'll just return to council space. Any threats? Kate asked. Few. Mostly from species that are about to be conquered by someone else. They're saying they'll attack human territory if we don't help them. Kate almost smiled at that. Attack human territory with what? Aliens had no idea where human space was. And even if they found it, their ships would be destroyed by automated defenses before they got close enough to see anything. There was one message that was different, Amy continued. Yes. From the Threnody delegate who refused to vote for our exile. Kate remembered the flower-like being who had called the council's decision cosmic injustice. What did they say? Missed 7 words. We should have stood with you. That message hit harder than all the threats and pleas combined. The Threnody were good people who had tried to do the right thing, but they had been too few and too weak to make a difference. Now they were paying the price along with everyone else. While the galaxy burned, humanity continued to grow. New colonies were established in systems rich with resources. New technologies were developed that pushed the boundaries of physics. New alliances were formed with species that had never heard of the Galactic Council. Most importantly, humanity's military had become something that would have terrified the Council if they had known about it. Colonel Bill Johnson commanded the first human fleet, a force that included ships the size of cities and weapons that could crack planets. His orders were simple. Protect human space from any threat. The perimeter scouts report increased alien activity, he told his staff. Council exploration ships are pushing deeper into unknown space, obviously looking for us. Any of them getting close? Asked his tactical officer. Not yet, but they're being more systematic about their search. Eventually, they might find one of our outer colonies. Orders if they do. Bill's face was grim. Capture the ship and crew. No communications with the outside. No evidence that they found anything. This was the new human policy. Complete isolation from galactic space. Any alien who stumbled across human territory would simply disappear, leaving no trace for others to follow. The galaxy had voted to exile humanity, and humanity would make sure that exile was permanent. But deep in the classified sections of human intelligence, plans were being made for an eventual return. Not as refugees or supplicants, but as conquerors. 5 years after humanity disappeared from galactic space, a single ship appeared at the edge of Council territory. The destroyer Washington was sleek and black. Unlike any vessel the galaxy had seen before, moved through space with deadly grace, its hull reflecting no light and its engines producing no detectable signature. To the alien sensors that finally noticed it, the ship seemed to appear from nowhere like a ghost. Captain Rick Stone stood on the bridge of his ship, looking at the emergency fleet that had scrambled to meet him. 12 Council warships surrounded the Washington, their weapons powered and ready to fire. It was an impressive display of force that would have been terrifying 5 years ago. Now it just looked pathetic. Sir, his tactical officer, Lieutenant Jane Miller said, the Council fleet is hailing us. Let them talk, Rick said calmly, but don't respond yet. The alien voices filled the bridge, speaking in dozens of languages through the translation systems. Demands to identify themselves. Orders to surrender. Threats of destruction if they did not comply immediately. Rick listened to it all with the patience of a man who knew he held all the cards. "Sir," Jane said, "they're charging weapons." "Let them," Rick replied. "Run a full scan of their ships. I want to know exactly how primitive their technology is." The results appeared on his screen within seconds. The alien warships were using the same weapons and shields they had possessed 5 years ago. Their computers were the same models. Their engines produced the same energy signatures. In 5 years of crisis and war, the Council species had made no meaningful technological progress at all. Meanwhile, the Washington carried weapons that could destroy all 12 ships with a single shot. "Enough games," Rick said finally. "Open a channel." The bridge fell silent as the alien voices stopped. Rick's image appeared on every Council ship, showing a calm human face that many of them remembered from the old days. "This is Captain Rick Stone of the Human Coalition Navy," he said in a voice that carried no emotion. "I am here to deliver a message to the Galactic Council. You will escort me to Council space immediately, or I will deliver the message here." The Council Admiral, a nervous Extani with bright blue feathers, responded quickly. "You are in violation of the Exile decree. Surrender your ship immediately, or we will open fire." Rick almost smiled. "Admiral, your ships are armed with plasma cannons that can penetrate 50 centimeters of standard armor. My ship's hull is made of materials that did not exist when you exiled us. Your weapons cannot scratch my paint." To prove his point, Rick nodded to his weapons officer. A thin beam of light reached out from the Washington and touched one of the Council ships. The alien vessel's shields flared and died instantly. Its weapon systems went offline. Its engines shut down. The ship was completely helpless, and Rick had barely used any power at all. "That was a demonstration," Rick said calmly. "The next shot will turn your ship into vapor. Now, will you escort me to the Council, or shall I continue this conversation with your replacement?" The Council fleet escorted the Washington to the heart of galactic civilization without. In other words, the Council chambers had changed in 5 years. Only 31 species remained in the organization now. 16 others had been conquered by the Shikari Empire. Several more had withdrawn as their governments collapsed. The great dome that had once housed the galaxy's most powerful assembly now felt empty and desperate. Council Prime Veltar still held his position, but the massive insectoid looked older and more tired. His black metal shell was dulled with age, and his green eyes flickered with uncertainty. Around him, the remaining delegates watched as Rick Stone walked to the center of the chamber. This time, no one accused humanity of anything. They all just waited to hear what the human had to say. Rick looked around the chamber with cold eyes. He saw the Korth delegate, whose people were fighting a losing war with the Zelrani. He saw the few remaining Zelrani representatives whose homeworld had been conquered by the Shikari just months ago. He saw species that had once been proud and confident, now reduced to desperate survivors. 5 years ago, Rick began, "You voted to exile humanity from galactic space. 46 species decided we were too dangerous to live among civilized beings. You gave us 30 days to leave, and we left in 10. His voice echoed in the vast chamber. Every delegate listened with complete attention. "You expected us to beg for mercy," Rick continued. "You thought we would plead for a second chance. Some of you probably hoped we would make threats, which would prove you were right to fear us." He paused and looked directly at Veltar. "Instead, we simply left. We took our people, our knowledge, our technology, and our capabilities, and we disappeared. I gave you exactly what you voted for, a galaxy without humans." Murmurs ran through the assembly. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "Now, I am here to tell you what humanity has been doing for the past 5 years, Rick said, his voice growing stronger. "We have not been hiding in exile, waiting for your forgiveness. We have been building." The main display screen came to life, showing images that made the delegates gasp in shock. Massive space stations that dwarfed anything in Council space, fleets of ships that numbered in the thousands, worlds transformed into garden paradises by technology the Council had never seen. "We have established colonies in 47 star systems beyond your knowledge," Rick announced. "We have made contact with 8 alien species that live beyond the galactic rim. We have formed alliances based on mutual respect and shared benefit. More images appeared. Alien beings that looked nothing like council species, working alongside humans on projects that seemed impossible. Ships that could travel between stars in days instead of months. Weapons that could reshape matter at the atomic level. Our technology has advanced by centuries, Rick continued. Our population has grown by millions. Our military has become something that would make your nightmares seem pleasant. The chamber was completely silent now. Even Veltar had stopped moving. But that is not why I am here, Rick said. I am here because of what has happened to the galaxy in our absence. Display changed again, showing images of the chaos that had consumed galactic space. Refugee fleets fleeing from war. Plague ships drifting dead through space. Worlds burning under Shikari bombardment. The Vorthan plague has killed 28 billion beings, Rick said without emotion. A simple disease that human medical technology could have stopped in its first week. Instead, it continues to spread because you no longer have access to our research. Some delegates looked down at their desks, unable to meet his eyes. The Shikari Empire has conquered 23 star systems and enslaved or killed over 50 billion beings. They're now moving toward the galactic core, and nothing in your combined fleets can stop them. Rick let that sink in before continuing. Your trade networks have collapsed. Your diplomatic systems have failed. Your scientific progress has stagnated. In 5 years, you have achieved nothing except the destruction of everything humans helped you build. Veltar finally found his voice. What do you want from us? The Council Prime asked. Rick smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. It was not a friendly smile. I want nothing from you, he said. I am here to tell you what is going to happen. The display showed a new image. Human fleets moving through space toward galactic territory. 3 days ago, the Shikari Empire made a mistake, Rick announced. Their expansion fleets countered human territory at the edge of the Cygnus Arm. They attacked our automated defense platforms thinking they had found easy targets. The display showed the battle. Shikari warships, the terror of the galaxy, being destroyed by human weapons so advanced, they seemed like magic. The entire Shikari invasion fleet, over 2,000 ships, was annihilated in less than an hour. The Shikari Empire surrendered unconditionally yesterday, Rick said calmly. Their entire government has agreed to human terms of peace. Their military has been disbanded. Their conquered territories are being liberated by human forces. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The Shikari had been unstoppable for 5 years. The idea that humanity had defeated them completely in a single battle was almost impossible to believe. But that is only the beginning, Rick continued. Humanity is returning to galactic space, but not as we left it. We are not coming back as refugees or supplicants. We are not asking for your permission or forgiveness. The display showed human fleets moving toward every major system in Council space. The Galactic Council system is hereby dissolved, Rick announced. Your authority is no longer recognized. Your laws are no longer binding. Your votes are no longer relevant. Veltar stood up, his massive form towering over the human. You cannot simply dissolve the Council. We are the legitimate government of civilized space. Rick looked up at the insectoid being without fear. You are 47 species that could not protect yourselves from a single plague or a single aggressive empire. You have no authority except what others choose to give you. He turned to address the entire assembly. Humanity is establishing a new order, Rick said. Species may join our confederation as equals, or they may remain independent. But the days of arbitrary hierarchy and mob rule are over. No species will ever again vote to exile another simply because they fear competition.